In today's episode, we'll look at how the class struggle that Marx spoke about in the 1800s is still alive today, but in a different form. We'll look at who the new bourgeois or dominant class is, and more importantly, who the new proletariat or exploited class might be in our modern world. Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. In this channel, we explore the fascinating world of law, including exploring the more philosophical questions like what is law and why do we follow law. And in today's episode, we are going to look at the Marxist perspective and to understand who the new proletariat is. Let's get started. Let me first give you the elevator pitch of Marxism. It's a theory created by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels by looking at what they call the exploitative capitalist societies in the 19th century. Their major contribution together can be found in the Communist Manifesto written in 1848. Karl Marx believed that society was primarily broken down into two main groups. The bourgeois, who were the people who owned the factories, lands and machines, and the proletariat, who were the workers who didn't own anything and had to sell their labor to survive. Think of it like a factory in the 1800s. The owners make huge profits, while the workers doing the actual heavy lifting were barely paid enough to live. But here's what's scary. Marx didn't believe that the rich just control the economy. They also control the ideological elements, which are things like politics, schools and education, religion, culture, and even the law, which influenced how a society functioned. According to Marx, this allowed the rich to design a society in a way that benefits them and often oppresses and exploits the poor. And because this was happening through ideological means like the schools, politics, religion, and law, the proletariat or the poor didn't even realize that they are being exploited. Marx calls this ideological mystification, that is being controlled without realizing it. Take for example the ideological element of law. The poor believe that the law is there to do justice and fairness for all. But in fact, Marx believes that the law is skewed in favor of the rich, and ideas such as justice and fairness are judged by the standard of the rich. Think about a law that says stealing is illegal. We believe that the law is there for our own benefit. But Marx points out, what good is that law to the poor who have nothing worthy of being stolen? But the law makes it illegal when the poor man steals a loaf of bread to feed his starving family. The law is there to protect the wealth and property of the rich and to exploit and oppress the poor. But the ideological mystification makes us believe that the law is there for our benefit. But the law that Marx saw in the 1800s is drastically different from the world that we live in today. We don't see many giant smoked factories dominating society anymore, and not everyone works with machines. Instead, our society is governed by technology and information. For example, most of us spend our time interacting with our phones than with physical machines, scrolling TikTok, shopping on Amazon, and using Google Maps. In today's world, data has become the new form of wealth, far more valuable than things like land and factories. So the classic idea of rich factory owner versus poor factory worker no longer captures the true nature of society. In the 21st century, the new wealthy class or the bourgeois consists of those who control big data, tech giants, platform owners, social media companies, and data brokers. They control the digital means of production, which is massive collections of data points collected from billions of people's online activities. For example, Facebook knows your interests, Google knows what you're curious about, and Amazon knows what your shopping habits are. So, who is the new proletariat? It's the ordinary users whose personal data, every like, click, search, and purchase, which is harvested and monetized. These big data companies collect our data and use that data to manipulate us. When you search for cheap flights one time and suddenly see flight ads everywhere, that's your data being used against you by big data companies to try and sell you something. When you watch one video on cooking and your feed turns into a 24/7 recipe channel, that's an algorithm shaping and manipulating your behavior. This data-driven structure allows big data companies to influence people very subtly and powerfully. For instance, YouTube and TikTok algorithms might keep recommending videos that keep you watching for hours because more watch time means more money for them. Or an online store might show you limited time offers like only 2 units left, even if they have hundreds in stock, just to push you to buy. They create the fear of missing out in you, prompting you to buy unnecessary stuff. And during elections, social media platforms detect your political leanings based on what you click, like, and share. Then they show you political ads or news articles tailored exactly to your beliefs. This prevents you from seeing opinions from the other side of the aisle and manipulating you to vote one way over the other. This is a new kind of manipulation which is invisible and constant. So instead of controlling workers in factories, the new big data companies control our attention, choices, and emotions through digital platforms. And just as Marx warned, most people don't even know that they are being manipulated. They think that their feed is just showing what they like, when in reality it's designed by the big data companies to keep them engaged and locked in, prompting you to give more of your money, time, and attention. So this is classic ideological mystification where the more powerful are controlling the weaker. Because of this emerging threat, lawmakers from around the world, from the European Union to the US to Sri Lanka, are passing data privacy laws. Most famously, laws like the GDPR from the European Union give certain rights to the data subjects. They give them the ability to access, edit, and even delete their data. They also punish companies for collecting too much data or using manipulative dark patterns like hiding the reject cookies button behind 5 menus while having the accept all button huge and bright in the center of their screen. Some countries also enforce heavy penalties with fines reaching thousands of dollars per violation. Marx would argue that these are the modern forms of bribes that he spoke about, where the powerful give small wins to the poor to keep them satisfied and prevent rebellion. He used this argument against factory safety laws in the 1800s, and this argument can be used today to kind of justify data protection laws from Marx's perspective. So despite the classic forms of exploitation that Marx spoke about not existing in the modern day today, the fundamentals of what he spoke about are still present today, just with new players and new forms of exploitation. So what do you think? Do you think the everyday users, the people who generate thousands of data points a day, are in fact today's new exploited class? Let me know in the comments below. And check out the video that's on screen next to understand more about Marxism. I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.